The New Orleans Pelicans have quietly been the best kept secret in the NBA. I'm not sure why they're not being talked about more as a potential title contender, but we're going to get into all that in this video. But essentially, this team, honestly, when healthy, doesn't really have many weaknesses. And quite frankly, they've been pretty healthy all season because, Zion has been healthy for the majority of the season. I know the Pelicans are kind of managing his minutes and workload here and there. But this team has finally been healthy, and we're seeing the fruits of that. We're seeing the results of this team meshing together well, right? Their big three of CJ McCollum, Zion Williamson, and Brandon Ingram finally healthy. And I know that, in a video by Six Man, he went kind of over this a little bit. But essentially you said, right, this team is a championship contender specifically because of their stats, in the sense that they are top 10 in both offense and defense. And that is usually the biggest indicator that a team could possibly win a championship in any given season, right? If they're top 10 in offense and defense, that is usually a pretty good sign that they could win a championship. So I want to get into that in this video because, like I said, this team just doesn't really have much weaknesses, right? You look at their star power, like I said, with Ingram, with Williamson, with McCollum. There's not really any weaknesses there, right? All these guys can kind of play off each other. They work very well together. And then there's supporting cast, right? You got guys like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, rookie Jordan Hawkins, Jonas Valanciunas. This bench is really deep as well, right? You got guys like Dyson Daniels. So this team is pretty much everything you need, right? They got vets, they got star power, they got some really good youth on this team. They got pretty much all their draft picks too, by the way. That's a whole other thing. And given all that, this team is in a really good position, not just for this season, but at least for the next 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8, 9, 10 years down the road, because these stars are so young. Now, McCollum, obviously, he's probably, one of the oldest guys on this team, and, in a sense, he doesn't kind of fit the timeline, I guess, of Ingram and McCollum just from an age perspective. But at least McCollum, right, he can grow alongside these guys, at least for the rest of his career, I would hope. And I hope he's in the Pelicans the rest of his career because he's been such a great fit. But he's kind of the perfect vet to complement this group, along with Jonas Valanciunas as well. He's been a great vet for this team too. But yeah, let's get into some of these guys and how their seasons are going. So Brandon Ingram, right? He's obviously been great over the past, 4 or 5 years for the Pelicans now. He was most improved player in the 2020 season, and he's just continued that, right? He was obviously great in the playoffs in 2022 when the Pelicans, were able to make it out of the play-in with just 36 wins in the regular season. But yeah, he's, continued being great this season, right? 21.6 points a game. His points are kind of down though. But he's shooting 49.4% from the field, 36% from three, also averaging 5.8 assists and 5 rebounds. So, yeah, like I said with Ingram, right, his scoring has kind of dropped a little bit, but that's because, majority of the team has been healthy. Zion's healthy, and so he doesn't really have to carry as much of the scoring, though, because of how well balanced on this roster is. But Ingram, he's been excellent, man. I mean, he's kind of like, I know people have called him this throughout his career, but kind of like, a mini KD in a sense, right? Plays similar. Obviously, though, hasn't averaged kind of, the scoring numbers that KD has. But still, Ingram is a really efficient 20-point per game scorer. He's an all-star level player. You could argue he's also in that superstar tier, and he definitely has played like it in the playoffs and the play-in and things like that. But yeah, Ingram has continued his excellence. But really, the main guy that has catapulted this team is Zion Williamson, because when he got hurt in the 2023 season, the Pelicans, I believe, were number 1 in the West, right? Like, they were looking like true championship contenders. And it was a similar thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, right? Like, they were both top 10 in offense and defense, if I'm not mistaken. Like, this team was prepared and had the perfect roster to win a championship. And then, obviously, Zion got hurt. A few other guys had injuries, and it kind of just derailed their season. They went all the way to 42-40, were the 9th seed, lost in the play-in. Things just didn't go their way for the rest of the season. And now that Zion is healthy, you're seeing what this team can really be. They have, hovered around that 4, 5, 6 range in the West throughout the majority of the season. They've been around 10 games above 500, at least as I'm recording this video. And, like I said, that's produced good fruit, right? They have been top 10 in offense and defense for pretty much most of the season. And with that, right, Zion's stats. Now, his scoring is down, much like Brandon Ingram. But like I said, that has to do with how well-rounded this roster is and how much scoring, obviously the other guys in this team could do, like McCollum, Murphy, Jones, right? All the guys that got coming off their bench. But Zion has been great, right? 22 points, 57% from the field, 35% from three, career high 5.2 assists. But yeah, Point Zion, man, you can't deny how good Point Zion is. Like, with him running the show and with how much spacing he has in that starting lineup, it just works really well together, right? Because you think about it this way. Ingram, right? He's around a 36 to 40% three-point shooter. McCollum, he's a 40% three-point shooter. Herb Jones, which I will get to in a little bit, he's shooting a career high 43% from three. And then Jonas Valanciunas, right? even though he's kind of, your, I guess, more traditional center, he can step out and hit the three too. And he's pretty darn good and can get going from three as well. So given how much space Zion has to work with and all the shooting he has, I mean, it's so easy for him to make plays. He has space, to drive. He's space even to, drive and kick out, get to the free throw line. So many different things. The possibilities are endless because of how much shooting is around Zion whenever he's on the court. So props to, David Griffin and just all the GMs and all the people working at the front office in the Pelicans. They've put together a really good roster that fits Zion perfectly because of all this floor spacing around him and the guys that can also defend really well too, like I said, with Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. So Zion, he's had a great year, but the main thing is he's finally healthy, and this is why the Pelicans are really seriously a championship contender like we all thought they would be, at least last season, and to an extent the 2022 season as well. And with that, let's go over CJ McCollum. As I said, he's been the perfect vet for this team. 18.5 points per game, 45.5% from the field, 41.4% from three, with about 4.4 assists. Now, this is his lowest scoring average, since his second season in Portland, but kind of makes sense, right? Him, Zion and Ingram, right? They've been able to play off each other more, play together more. And like I said, with the depth of this roster, each of those three guys hasn't had to score as much. But obviously McCollum, he's raised his three-point efficiency. This is his highest three-point percentage in nearly, 3 or 4 years. And it's one of the highest of his career, the third highest of his career to be exact. But yeah, McCollum has been excellent, the perfect vet, perfect point guard for this team. Great shooter, solid playmaker. Yeah, just really, he's a guy you want on your team. He's a guy any team would want. And so obviously, he's, I believe, the president or vice president of the Player Association. I forget which role exactly, but yeah, McCollum has been an excellent vet for this team, and I hope he stays here for the rest of his career because he is just such a good fit on this roster. Additionally, you have Herb Jones. Like I said, he's shooting a career high 43.5% from three, career high 11.3 points. He has improved his shooting to an extent that I don't think anybody expected, right? Herb Jones has been the most prototypical, most probably coveted 3-and-D wing in the league. Like, the way he plays is exactly what any team is looking for. And he's definitely one of the Pelicans' most important players. Also career high plus minus 3.5 as well, looking at his numbers. And also career high 85.3% from the free throw line. So Herb Jones has been absolutely excellent. Not much else I can say about him, but just his three-point shooting, his defensive versatility, it is so crucial to this team's success. Every championship contender needs a guy like Herb Jones. And the fact that he's developed his shooting as much as he has, that's just going to pay so much dividends for this Pelicans team going forward. And it's been awesome to see the growth of Herb Jones here over the past couple years. And with that, we got to get a Trey Murphy, right? He's obviously an excellent 3-and-D guy too for this team. But for the Pelicans, right, think about this. They have two of the best young 3-and-D guys in the league. And, no other team pretty much has guys like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, and yet the Pelicans do. So if there's any indicator that this team can go far in the playoffs, possibly upset some teams, and even potentially win a championship and, maybe get to the finals, Herb Jones and Trey Murphy are the best indicators of that, because not only do you have the star power, but you have the perfect 3-and-D role players to go along with it. So Trey Murphy, scoring zipped a little bit, 13.6 points per game, only 37% from three, but he has still been excellent off this Pelicans bench. He is the perfect role player that they need. And so yeah, with all that, that's pretty much what I wanted to mention about the New Orleans Pelicans. Yeah, like I said, they have just been absolutely excellent this year in so many areas. Just their defensive versatility, their three-point shooting, the spacing, Zion being healthy, it's all coming together. And if nobody's talking about them as true contenders, they should now, because they are the NBA's best kept secret. I would watch out for them. This team has gone really underrated, at least for me this season as well. Haven't heard much about them, haven't been following them too much, but this team is a force to be reckoned with. And honestly, I would not be surprised if they end up making the conference finals or even the NBA finals this year with how wide open the West is. Obviously, still need to get past Denver, but we will see what happens. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.